Good morning, everyone. Happy Friday. Happy National Apprenticeship Week. My name is Ryan Hundt, CEO of the Michigan Works Association. I'd like to welcome all of you to today's panel discussion regarding the expansion of registered apprenticeship opportunities and the impact of registered apprenticeships on the post-pandemic economy. This panel discussion is being recorded and made available for those who are not able to attend today. And just some housekeeping technical suggestions for today's recording. Viewing the panel on Speaker View in Zoom will offer the best viewing experience for our attendees. Now, before beginning today's discussion, I'd like to introduce our panel members. We have Russ Davis. Russ is the State Director of the United States Department of Labor, Office of Apprenticeship. Lee Graham. He is the Executive Director of the International Union of Operating Engineers, Local 324 Labor Management Education Committee. Scott Jedele is the State Administrative Manager for Apprenticeship Expansion with the Michigan Department of Labor and Economic Opportunities, Office of Employment and Training. And finally, Doug Hilburn. Doug is a recently graduated apprentice from Operating Engineers 324, and Doug is now working for Wayne County Airport Authority at Detroit Metro Airport as a stationary engineer. He's taking a break from the cold weather to join us indoors today for the panel discussion. A special thanks to all of the panelists for joining today and offering their unique insights. I'd like to start today's discussion with a few questions for USDOL State Director of Apprenticeships, Russ Davis. Russ, thanks again for joining. First question for you today. As the economy continues to recover from the pandemic, how do you see registered apprenticeships playing a role in that recovery?
Good morning, Ryan, and thanks everyone for joining us in this National Apprenticeship Week event. To get to your question, Ryan, we see that the registered apprenticeship will play a big role in recovery. One, the infrastructure bill has just been passed. We're going to need hundreds more construction workers. There's 10,000 baby boomers a day that are retiring, and to fill these positions quickly, registered apprenticeship will be a factor in this. We need more workers in the IT and healthcare. An apprenticeship is becoming a great option and career pathway for these two entities. And on top of that, we've been doing our staff along with a team from Michigan Works. We've been having apprenticeship 1.0, 101 sessions, road shows to be more awareness of the value of the registered apprenticeship. The registered apprenticeship started in 1937, earn while you learn, and it continues to play the same part it did way back then.
Thanks, Russ. You started to get into this a little bit at the end of your answer there for the first question, talking about some of the apprenticeship roadshows that your team is currently undertaking. Can you tell us a little more about some of the additional efforts that your team at USDOL and what they're undertaking to expand apprenticeship opportunities across the nation and more specifically across Michigan?
Sure, Ryan. Back in June of 2021, the department announced the award of more than $130 million of grants to develop, modernize, and diversify registered apprenticeship programs. The department awarded more than $99 million in state apprenticeship expansion equity inclusion grants to bolster states' effort to expanding programming, inclusive recruitment, and strategy to attract a diverse workforce. The awards included more than $85 million for states that demonstrate a commitment to increase the diversity, equity, and inclusion efforts. These grants are aimed at developing partnerships with new industries and non-traditional occupations, including industry sectors hardest hit by pandemic, and align registered apprenticeship with other work-based learning opportunities within state education and workforces. And lastly, the department also awarded nearly $31 million through cooperative agreements to establish the following 4 registered apprenticeship technical assistance centers of excellence to provide technical assistance to apprenticeship programs that enroll trainees in Diversity and Inclusion Center, Strategy Partners and System Alignment Center, Apprenticeship Occupation Standards Center, and Data Performance and Best Practice Center. These centers will include to seek to create successful inclusion talent pipelines that meet the needs of today's industry workers and communities, provide technical assistance to employers and industry to build our model registered apprenticeship programs across a range of industries, and work across public and private sector partners to expand opportunities in registered apprenticeship for women, youth, people of color, rural communities, justice involved individuals, and people with disabilities.
Excellent. Thanks so much, Russ. You talked a little about some of the grant opportunities that are coming down the pipeline right now. We talked a little about the infrastructure bill and the importance in the registered apprenticeships for advancing the economy through the remainder of the pandemic, and certainly as part of the post-pandemic economy. Are there any other efforts that your team at USDOL is currently focused on in terms of expanding apprenticeship opportunities across the nation? And if so, what are some of those elements?
Well, I'm going to defer to Scott on the grants and what we're doing with Michigan to expand apprenticeship, because Scott is right on top of that. But I will say that with the grants, it will be helping invest and expand registered apprenticeship. In our efforts truly with the United States Department of Labor Office of Apprenticeship is to have more of a diverse workforce, including those of underrepresented, served minorities, including those with barriers and who have been, even those with have been incarcerated. And so our efforts are to work with the whole team. Example of working with the construction trades yesterday with Lee Graham and his team at Operators 324, the Leo team, and also the road shows. And when we see what we're doing there to get that awareness out. And the other piece of it is the CTE centers, the high schools, and community college and the articulation agreements, so that those students that are dual enrolled can articulate that credit right into a registered apprenticeship for expansion. So we've got several initiatives, but it really takes the whole team, everybody that's on this call, including more, to expand it. Well, I think we're right now about 750,000 registered apprentices across Michigan, across the United States. Michigan, we're about 18,600. Thanks.
Thanks, Russ. It's great to hear that Michigan makes up such a significant percentage when you look across the entire country of registered apprenticeships. And certainly that's a big thanks to you and your team at USDOL and the state of Michigan with Scott and his team for supporting those efforts across the entire state. Great transition into Scott for some questions for him coming from the Michigan Department of Labor and Economic Opportunity on their employment and training team. Scott, you are the state's manager for apprenticeship expansion. I'd like to get a little more detail from you, if you don't mind, on the increase in registered apprenticeship opportunities in Michigan. Are there any specific industries that the expansion covers, and approximately how many apprentices are we expecting that expansion of those opportunities? How many folks do you think that will end up training in the long run?
Thank you, Ryan, and I'm kind of honored to serve as the manager for Michigan's state apprenticeship expansion section. We're a new section in the state of Michigan, even though we're now almost 2 years old. They still consider that new. And so I wouldn't say we're just kind of getting our feet on the ground and getting running. We still are a little bit getting started as a section in the state, but really honored. You know, Russ mentioned the team that it takes, and really honored to join the team just with a reputation of being really excellent at using the registered apprenticeship model, and to expand it to more industries, and even to expand the use of the model in industries where it's already been a mainstay and one of the critical success factors for training. And so we're really honored. As Russ mentioned, we've received several federal projects, and our section works to help manage those grants and deploy those funds across the state. And we have projects for expansion itself. We have projects that focus on youth, one that focuses on veterans. They all focus on underserved or underrepresented populations. So that's exciting for Michigan's current initiatives, resulting in that credential supports the governor's 60 by 30 initiatives. We all know the importance of those. And so we're excited that that happens through the registered apprenticeship model. And I'll tell you, when it comes to the part of your question where it's which industries we're supporting through registered apprenticeship, Russ opened that door. And I can tell you, I don't think there's any industries it doesn't support well. So healthcare, construction and building for sure, it's a critical success factor there. Manufacturing, mobility, energy. We've got requests for, more information. Let's start registered apprenticeships in agriculture. Michigan was awarded an opportunity. It doesn't come with additional funding, but we received an opportunity to participate in a national consortium for public sector apprenticeship. So apprenticeships in the civic sector. So we're really excited about that. And it's not just approximately. We promised the federal government when we took the grant money, we would have at least 8,000 new registered apprenticeships in Michigan over the next 4 years. So our target is set. We're definitely leveraging all the partners that have been mentioned and even some we haven't mentioned yet. So thanks for the question.
That's great, Scott. Great to hear that number 8,000 is a tremendous number, but I know through the commitment and the work and dedication from your team and all the other stakeholders on the call, we will certainly help hit that number. Scott, part of the Michigan Registered Apprenticeship expansion includes accelerating right skills development. Can you tell us a little more about right skills development and exactly what that means and the importance of right skills development in registered apprenticeships?
I can, and thank you for grabbing that term. It is super critical at this point in time, especially. So right skills development is a great term to coin right now. I think to start with the end in mind, I'm going to answer the second part of your question first, and that is, why is it important? It's the first time in my career that we know of where employers are daily turning down work or decreasing their open hours because they're short-staffed. Pre-COVID, employers started to tell us we're really in trouble. We see retirements coming and we're worried about it, right? Now, today, they can tell you how much work they turned down last quarter because they didn't have the staff skilled with the right skills to do that work. And same thing for shortened hours. They can say we used to be open 12, now we're open 8, and that's 2/3 the revenue we can generate for our business. So it's really critical that the right skills are developed and accelerated in development. And if there's a sweet spot for registered apprenticeship, it is right there. So hiring an apprentice immediately fills a job opening with a person who is motivated to learn exactly the right skills through the registered apprenticeship. It immediately starts a transfer of knowledge from the current right skilled worker, who's the mentor, to the future right skilled worker, who's the apprentice. And that's a great way to fix that problem that we're experiencing. So these Office of Apprenticeship is working to set up these programs. Russ's team, they're flexible, they're customizable, and they ensure the development of right skills at the completion of the apprenticeship.
Thanks, Scott. You really do learn something new every day. Right skills development is one of those terms I think maybe based on your comments, Scott, not a lot of people know about right now, but that is going to be something of extreme importance for registered apprenticeships going forward. Russ talked about this a little bit during some of his comments. Earlier this year, the state of Michigan received funding from USDOL for state apprenticeship expansion, equity, and innovation grants. Can you tell us how those grants are different from other apprenticeship grants, and why should we be paying attention to those grants in particular?
Yep, great question. Thank you, Ryan. We did receive and are honored again to receive that. Governor Whitmer announced that in Grand Rapids earlier in the year. And it is super important. It's a super important project, in part because it addresses the issues and the people most impacted by COVID-19, and truly those least often that benefit from registered apprenticeship training. So because of that, I think it's a real win for Michigan and for our residents. So those dollars actually target women, people of color, individuals with disabilities, individuals without high school equivalency credentials, and other populations that Russ mentioned as well. And so it's really focused activity, and comes with it extra dollars. We typically have around $3,000 of reimbursement for employers, either for the cost, and sponsors for the cost of training related to registered apprenticeship, both on the job with the mentor and in classrooms. And the dollars are expanded through this project. Additionally, pre-apprenticeship and even pre-apprenticeship readiness, where we're taking a population not traditionally involved in apprenticeship like women and focusing on them to help make sure that they're successful getting into a registered apprenticeship and successful at completion. So super critical.
Could not agree more. Thank you, Scott.
Welcome.
Scott, the state works closely with the Michigan Works Network and their apprenticeship success coordinators at the local level and the regional level to assist individuals in finding apprenticeship opportunities in the area in which they live. Can you tell us a little more about this partnership and how exactly does it work?
Yep, I can. Thank you for the question. Again, excellent question. And it's not a secret, Ryan, that we don't expand apprenticeship in Lansing. It happens in regions and in sectors across the state. And for that reason, the partnership that we have through the Michigan Works agencies and the apprenticeship success coordinators is really critical for Michigan, because that's how we actually deliver the federal funding dollars into the networks where the apprenticeships are expanding. So they're working directly with Russ and his ATRs across the state to help employers set up those apprenticeship programs and then to allow them to get reimbursed with dollars. But it's not just that. That network, as you know, also ties in things like the Going Pro Talent Fund funding, the WIOA opportunities for support dollars, and really begins to expand and surround apprentices and sponsors or employers with the programs necessary to make sure that the apprentices succeed. And for that reason, they are definitely a critical success factor in our expansion activities. And truly, in the regions, in the sectors, that's where the expansion takes place. Some even serve as intermediaries for small employers that may be taxed in the HR area. So they actually serve to track hours on the program and help record those hours so that the sponsor and the apprentice get credit for the work that they're doing during their registered apprenticeship program. Great question, thanks.
Thank you, Scott. We really appreciate your time as part of this panel this morning. We will now turn to Lee Graham, and Lee is the Executive Director for Operating Engineers 324 Labor Management Education Committee, and Lee will cover the next few questions here. Lee, you had a great event yesterday out at your facility in Howell, something like 150-ish folks, most of which were educators learning more about apprenticeship opportunities and how Operating Engineers 324 can assist in that regard. Now, Operating Engineers 324 offers extensive apprenticeship programs featuring 3 training career centers. Why are apprenticeships so important, and how could they assist with turning the economy around at this stage of the pandemic and even post-pandemic, looking into the future?
Thank you, Scott. Super excited. Happy National Apprenticeship Week, everybody. So what we share is the apprenticeships are the foundation, for long, rewarding, sustainable careers. They provide the knowledge base that prepares someone for their challenges their chosen field will offer. And as well, it hones the essential skills that translate into work and life. So just as college is a path for a doctor or a teacher to learn the skills they will need to excel, apprenticeships teach the skilled trades person. So the professional skilled trades, we go a step further. Our registered apprenticeship programs with USDOL Office of Apprenticeship. These registered apprenticeships meet highly developed standards and ensure that our apprentices have a set of skills that transcend into our state, but meet rigid national-wide guidelines like Russ was sharing earlier. So by requiring both on the job and the classroom training, we teach skills and a wider knowledge. When someone enters our programs, they earn while they learn. That's been our big motto, right? There's no accumulation of debt. So we're talking about pairing a workforce that is well educated in these registered apprenticeship programs with the serious need we have for infrastructure and advanced manufacturing in a way that we haven't seen in 70 plus years. So that means the opportunities are there, and in turn, our industry and our sector can become one of the driving forces propelling the economy forward. The need for our industry for construction, for technicians, for stationary engineers did not slow during the pandemic. So safety is the critical component of what we do and what we teach. And in closing here, just the pandemic wasn't a stop as much as it was a pivot. So we had new safety issue to consider. And so we did while, continuing our vital work. And it provided just how necessary and sustainable these careers are. So tomorrow's apprentices will be the safest, the most well-trained apprentices, and they will go into the workforce knowing that they are needed and super vital. So thank you for that question.
Thanks, Lee. Very well said. Lee, I know that you've had success in reaching out to underserved populations with your apprenticeship program. We heard a little from Scott on some of the equity grants regarding apprenticeships that the state is helping to manage in partnership with the USDOL. But for Operating Engineers 324, can you tell us more about your efforts in reaching out to underserved populations and how you've been able to effectively engage a diverse range of individuals?
Thank you, Ryan. Be glad to. The key to our recruitment efforts is diversity of efforts. And so when we talk about the diversity of efforts, we mean how we pair with many organizations and their efforts. And there are so many organizations and efforts that are out there doing the good work every day. So when we look at it, there's many opportunities when we work directly with them to employ and empower their efforts and help them share opportunities. When we work with Michigan Labor and Economic Opportunities with Scott and the team, with Leo, through participation on the workforce board, we help spread that message that these are great careers. And the same goes when we work with the Michigan Works Association, Ryan and your team, and the Michigan Works Service Centers that Scott had talked about earlier. And most importantly, too, the workforce boards, across the state that Scott shared, as far as the good work that's happening. So it allows, the adaptability to different regions and the needs of those in the areas which are unique to their demographics and history, but at the same time in their needs of sustainable careers. So we work with them, MySTEM. So the Michigan Science, Technology, Engineering, and Math acknowledges the opportunity and example that are becoming more and more of what we do daily. So these are just a few examples of the many things that we do. We work to get our message out, to cast a wide net as possible. We have a presence at dozens of career fair events that got brought up earlier, just as many others are doing, with the middle and high schoolers throughout the state. Ryan, you brought up our opportunity yesterday with a lot of educators, superintendents, career advisors, apprenticeship success coordinators, with the Michigan Works Agency. We partner with pre-apprenticeship programs. So when you look at groups like the Access for All, that is expanding across the state, the Detroit Workforce of the Future, that create paths for many in traditionally underserved communities into our trade. We work extensively with the counselors, administrators, as I shared just a minute ago. We join organizations like the National Association of Women in Construction, the WISC program, the Women in Skilled Trades, Project Accelerate, to bring more women into the trades. So we create materials, to better engage the students, like our excavator simulator apps, students download, or the many videos and actual simulators that we bring out to the career events. And so our crown jewel, you brought it up earlier, the 2-day Michigan Construction Career Days that we're going to be hosting coming May 4th and 5th. 3,000 plus students. So you think about 7th to 12th grade students. We had over 100 schools in 2019 back then. So students come to the Construction Career Center. They try all the skilled trade careers, hands-on opportunities with all our different partners. Our goal is to reach as many different ways to different communities as possible. Our careers are truly for everyone. And increasingly, that has meant reaching potential candidates where they are, in their communities and in their regions. That means a presence at community events and festivals that we found just recently in this past year. Saginaw, for example, is one just this year. Places where we can talk to the candidates themselves, their families, the community leaders, and the influencers. That also means reaching students than ever before and younger, from kindergartner and up. So with Russ on us with us today, he actually kicked off with his team up there in Frankenbooth, kindergarten through 5th grade, which is super amazing career days when you're able to do something like that at that age, because they always ask us, how young do you recruit? And we're like, right there it is. So we're introducing tomorrow's graduates to the construction industry. We use a model that we call identify, attract, and retain. So by greater exposure to these career opportunities, we have a greater chance to inspire the interest in what we do. That means outreach to more students, more communities, especially those that have been underserved in the past. So once somebody's interested in what we do, we explain what they need to do to build a career in our field, what they can expect, and how to succeed. So retention is the final part. Once an operating engineer has experienced the job site and stated their education, it is our job to give them the support to keep them engaged and successful. So in closing on this question, there are many reasons we have more apprentices in Earn While You Learn DOL Registered Apprenticeship Program than any other time in our history. So we know it is essential, and it's the longevity of our craft and our success. So thank you, Ryan.
Thanks, Lee. You talked a little about some of the career exploration activities, even getting down to the K-5 level. I was on a panel discussion earlier this week down in Novi for Auto Tech Week, and somebody had posed the question, is college too late to begin telling folks just how important STEM careers are? And the consensus on the stage was absolutely yes. And then folks started to talk about some of the efforts they have reaching out to middle school students, even getting down to that K-5 level with Lego robotics and those types of programs that are becoming more commonplace, fortunately, in many of our school districts across the state. Lee, you talked a little about your involvement with some of the women-led organizations here in Michigan. A record number of women have left the workforce over the course of the pandemic. Adult women in Michigan, for example, they have a workforce level that's about 220,000 fewer women compared to pre-pandemic levels. That's down about 10% compared to pre-pandemic workforce levels for adult working women here in Michigan. Now, also in Michigan, just over 11% of the active registered apprenticeships in our state are women. So how can apprenticeships potentially play a role in helping women return to the workforce going forward?
Thank you, Ryan. There are more women entering the construction industry than ever before. So we've been excited about that. The reason for this is simple. There are good careers with these opportunities right here. So women are seeking the same opportunities and benefits as men. And in our industry, they can truly achieve them. So an apprenticeship offers learning. We talked about that earlier with Scott and Russ. And we know that, but it also the biggest part about it too is the benefits, right? With the healthcare and the retirement. So an apprenticeship is the first step to a great standard of living, and more women seeing it for the great opportunity that it is. That's given us this opportunity. So when you look at an apprenticeship, like the ones that we offer, will provide all the training to succeed. The entire point of the apprenticeship is to say, you don't need to know everything when you come in. So they allow us the opportunity to start in the very beginning, whether you're you don't know the difference of a bulldozer between a bulldozer and a snowblower. But the truth of the matter is they teach you what you need in these apprenticeships. So this isn't limited to us. You see it across the trades. Women are interested, and we are working hard to let them know that they're not only welcome here, but that there are great careers to be had through the doors. So, and because of that, we expect those numbers to continue to rise. So thank you for that question, Ryan, and looking forward to all the good work ahead.
Great to hear. Thank you so much, Lee. So we heard from a few of the panelists thus far who are helping to expand apprenticeships across the state, but let's hear from an actual apprentice or one who went through the Operating Engineers 324 as a graduate. So I'd like to now turn to Doug Hilburn. Again, Doug is a recently graduated apprentice from Operating Engineers 324. He's now working down at Wayne County Airport Authority. So Doug, we'd like to learn a little bit more about participation in an apprenticeship program and exactly what that looks like. If you wouldn't mind just first and foremost telling us, why did you decide to pursue an apprenticeship opportunity with Operating Engineers 324? Is Lee really that fun to hang out with?
Yes, he is. Well, I started because I was working very long hours at a hard physical job as a correctional officer in a juvenile prison for a very low wage. So I wanted a career where I can work with my hands and get paid for my value. So my father-in-law, he's a stationary engineer, and he was telling me about his field. I never heard of it before, didn't know nothing about it. And so he gave me a tour of his powerhouse, told me what stationary engineering do for a living, and walked me around, showed me a boiler, showed me a chiller, and I fell in love with the plant. And he told me about this school down in Detroit, local 324. So I went down to the school, spoke with a few people, signed up for classes. Then I was able to get put in the apprenticeship program.
That's an excellent story. Thanks, Doug. I think it's really critical, obviously, on all the efforts that we're doing from Lee's perspective to Scott to Russ at the federal level on expanding apprenticeship opportunities. But what it really gets down to, if you have that individual in your life, whether it's a family member, a colleague, a coworker, who also can speak to the importance of the trades and apprenticeships, that really does hit home for a lot of folks. I'm glad to hear that you had that relationship right there in your own family that was able to speak to the importance of a registered apprenticeship and kind of helped set you on that path towards success. Doug, speaking of impact, what impact has participating in this apprenticeship had on your life, not just in your professional life, but also in your personal life as well?
Well, it had a huge impact on my life because it showed me what a true brotherhood and a union can teach you everything you need to become an engineer. I learned the right way, the safe way, and the reason why we do things that we do as engineer. It also prepared me to go down to see the examiner to take a test to become a licensed engineer, to become a first class engineer. Not only do we work and go to school, but just like you said, sometimes it's tough on your personal life where the brotherhood, they're available for you to talk and show you and help you and prepare you for the things that you go through in life as we move along through the program. So all in all, it's just a great brotherhood and it's just a great family to be in as they provided me through the 4 years of my apprenticeship the ways to become a successful engineer.
Excellent. Yeah, I think it's not just about the tangible benefits in terms of wages and things like that when it comes to registered apprenticeships, but even having that strong support network of individuals who you can talk with on a daily basis about anything and everything certainly does help in advancing your career as a registered apprentice. Now, Doug, what advice would you give to individuals who may be considering the apprenticeship route for their career?
Well, I would tell them, please come aboard. Like the other panelists were saying, we have a lot of experienced older guys that's in the field that's ready to retire. There's a ton of opportunity for us young guys to come along and learn from these guys before they retire, take all their knowledge. That way it'll make our job a lot easier. And also, you won't have no debt after 4 years. So you get to work, you get to go to work, you get paid, and you also get to go to school and learn the right way to do your job. So it's a benefit no matter what. The apprenticeship is just a great benefit for you to come along and make your life a lot easier with the benefit and also the pay. So I will tell as many people as I can to please join any apprenticeship you can, just to come out and it's an enjoyable thing in life to go out and work, get paid, and just enjoy a career to do what you like to do.
Agreed. I know Lee, Scott, Russ all share the same sentiments. They would tell anybody who is interested in exploring that as a career opportunity, make that leap, make that investment in yourself. I think hearing it directly from you, Doug, as somebody who has recently gone through a registered apprenticeship program and is now very successful in your career, it's extremely impactful. So I thank you for your comments today. I'd also like to thank all of our panel members for the great discussion. Individuals who are interested in learning more about registered apprenticeships can do so by visiting apprenticeship.gov. I do have a few follow-up questions for the group, so feel free to jump in and take these questions if you feel like you have some unique insights to offer, which I'm sure all of our panelists do. The Michigan Works Association represents the 16 Michigan Works offices across the state, so we do have a number of workforce development professionals who are on the call listening in today. what can workforce developers do to assist in the expansion of registered apprenticeships across the state? I know Scott talked a little about the partnership with the apprenticeship success coordinators at the Michigan Works offices statewide, but are there other things, are there other activities or things that workforce developers in Michigan should be aware of to help in the expansion of registered apprenticeships?
I'll take a shot at that real quick. The one part that we touched on earlier just was the exciting piece of the success coordinators through the Michigan Works agencies, even during this pandemic, that we're able to jump on a Zoom call with all of us across the professional trades, and everybody that got to see each other, at least by the Zoom, sharing the initiatives and the opportunities that they have in each part of the state was super exciting to hear, for the professional trades from the success coordinators. But it speaks to the workforce boards, of the good work that's happening in those areas. So we were able to share back to the success coordinators on the different initiatives and efforts that we've been, working together on, from the state's perspective and from the building trades and the stationary side. So I think that was, really, really beneficial, Ryan, to your question, that we're going to continue to do. And there were many success coordinators out at National Apprenticeship Week, seeing the hands-on piece too as well, doing that good work. So thank you.
Ryan, this is Russ. I'd like to jump in there and add to that. Our apprentice train reps, Mary Beth Koski, Mark DeCoster, and Tiffany Clausen have been meeting with ASCs across the state in monthly meetings and answering questions and finding out how they can partner up and how to expand apprenticeship. A lot of our ASCs are brand new in the state. And so there's a lot of questions about registered apprenticeship. And so these ATRs have been meeting with them and also including them, the Michigan Works on the 1.0 and the 101 session. So I think that communication is going a long way.
I guess I would also add, Brian, just to complement Doug's idea that Lee is fun to hang out with. I would agree that Lee is fun to hang out with, and he's got like some of the classiest hard hats available out at these events. So I would encourage people to attend, but what a great opportunity to kind of experience educators at that event yesterday. Russ, you did a great job of setting a theme, kicking it off, and really well done. From a specific to the Michigan Works, I would suggest that they just keep doing what they're doing. I join Lee in thanking them for the work that took place during the pandemic and following, and really their continued patience and persistence at trying to expand the model. Russ mentioned that there's several new apprenticeship success coordinators, and that's so exciting because that means that the prior one that gained experience and built some relationships and kind of grew the network is now it's growing even more. And what I see is just works agencies and workforce boards being really successful at embracing the registered apprenticeship model, learning how it can apply to, so many different training situations, growing their relationships with Lee's team and those teams all across the state that are already working so hard to, not only expand the model, but expand it into underrepresented populations. We talked a lot about women entering trades. It's so exciting. The majority of the educators present yesterday at the event were women. It looked like to me, I don't know if that's true or not, Lee, but that's just so exciting. And then also from Doug's perspective, I think the work that they do working with applicants that are job seekers, looking to get into training programs. I just appreciate the way that they try to link them up with apprenticeship opportunities. So I would say more of the same and continue the good work.
Brian, I like that. This is Russ. I'd like to add one more comment just to tell you how working with the Michigan Works agencies, how we've expanded in this COVID. We've had successful intermediaries in the state of Michigan, but recently Mary Beth Koski, through a trip this summer in the UP, started working with the UP Michigan Works up there. They became an intermediary, started out, I think, with one occupation, and I believe now they're going to add 3 more occupations up there in a verse of diverse trades. And so I think that goes to show that even during these pandemic times, we can make things work, whether it's in Detroit or if it's in Marquette or Escanaba. And so that's the power of Zoom sometimes, I guess.
Yes, if there's nothing else we've learned over the last year, it's that the power of Zoom does have some benefits in terms of connecting and in partnership for sure. Scott, I'd also like to echo your sentiments and confirm the hard hats at Operating Engineers 324 are phenomenal. My 4-year-old daughter plays with it and puts it on every single day. So when we talk about women entering the workforce, I think we might have a pre-apprentice in the making right now that we'll send over to OE 324 when she gets a little bit older.
I got to tell you, Ryan, I was listening earlier when Russ and Lee get going, and it wouldn't surprise me to go into a maternity ward now and see little small hard hats from 324 on any of those infants.
Well, I'll tell you, it's one of the professional trades, because the excitement yesterday when you got to see the sheet metal, right? They had all their apprentices out there. And when the teachers and the counselors got to hear that they got to make their very own pencil box out of steel, let me tell you, talk about excitement, talk about opportunities. That was a whole part of the hands-on, even sweat and pipe with the plumbers, the carpenters, virtual welding. I mean, there's just so much that is truly amazing when you get to do it yourself, right? When you get to experience that. So the ratio, so we say hats off to the Michigan Works Association on the apprenticeship success coordinators, because it's just as vital as the schools with a 700-to-1 ratio, for students and counselors. So you gotta have people on the ground, right? Because like in yesterday, when they were able to, all the trades were able to hand off all their information to the apprentice success coordinators and the counselors, then they're armed, right? Then they go back to their destination and they continue to do that good work. So, and that's like, Doug, applying to the apprenticeship, graduating, top of the class, working for an amazing employer as an apprentice, getting that USDOL certificate that I held up earlier, right here, right? That's a pretty proud moment. And guess what? He's even given back more, because he's come back and he's teaching at the training facility and giving back in that way. So you talk about mentoring.
Right.
Pretty awesome.
That's what it's all about. Thanks for those comments. One final question before we get into any closing comments. Oftentimes the number one barrier is simply a lack of understanding or a lack of awareness. So what is the top or the number one misconception that employers and individuals have regarding registered apprenticeships, and what can we be doing as a state to help them understand the importance of apprenticeships?
I guess I will start it off in skilled trades. As I always thought, it's dirty. It's for those that don't do very well in school, and that's a misconception. And on top of that is the misconception, well, we really don't have to go to school, and that's not a true statement. You have to do at least 144 clock hours of schooling per year of apprenticeship. And on top of that, the articulation agreements now for those DOL graduates that can go back and get their associate and bachelor degree is readily available. And these DOL certificate graduates, journey workers like Doug, are our next process engineers, our next superintendents on the job, our entrepreneurs that are running our businesses here in Michigan. And so we need to change that concept, and it is changing. We're having more of the high school's students that the parents were pushing them into, say, you got to go to college, or coming forward and say, no, I don't want to do that. I want to be a skilled tradesman. And right in my background here in Frankenmuth, Michigan, where a majority of them would go on to college now, we've been having panel discussions there, and we have signed up many apprentices there out of those graduates. And so those are changing, but we all have to continue to work with our road shows and our sessions to continue to change parents' thinking?
I would like to chime in.
Please go ahead, Doug.
And one thing I noticed, like when I was in high school, the teachers and the counselors, everybody pushed college. Everybody pushed college. Nobody pushed trade. You can go to trade school and have a successful career. But as I noticed, as I went through the apprenticeship program, and like Lee said, I was out there 3 years in a row where we got the high school kids to come out, and each year got bigger, bigger, and bigger. We had the last year, 2019, we had so many kids there, it was unbelievable. So now we're starting to get out to these kids and let them know that there is a career. And with me teaching down there in Detroit, I'm starting to see a lot of more young kids straight out of high school. I got 3 19-year-olds in my class right now. So we're starting to see a lot of more young people come along in our classes to learn about trade and get into the apprenticeship program. So whatever we're doing right now, it's working. We're getting out. Our voice is being heard by the kids, and I think we just need to keep it up and keep pushing our trades out there.
Keep the foot on the gas. I love it, Doug.
Yes.
And Ryan, I would just say too, just the opportunities that's been, like Doug just shared. When you look at the technology and you look at, how things have advanced and keeping up with that, that's brought us even closer back, with the connections of the students in the schools and the proper alignment with robotics and just different ways that we're able to go out and recruit because they're experiencing that. And so that's why we talked about the MySTEM Advisory Council, earlier in our comments, because we got to show them at that young early age. When we were up at List Elementary School, you talk about kindergarten through 5th grade, you're kneeling down on your knees or walking up to eye level, and they're lining up 14 deep to get in the heavy equipment simulator, right? And there's 14 girls in a row, right? So it's like, and then you see the veterinarian next door and you see the medical person putting a cast on their arm and cutting that off. So those experiences, I think that, when the employers are doing the good work and they're engaged on the advisory board and sitting on the workforce boards and they're bringing, their industry to that level, with the Michigan Works groups and with Russ's team, I think that's when the magic continues to happen, because you look at these pre-apprenticeships that are across the state, you're giving that early jump in the vehicle and drive around look. That's important because they got to go experience something, at an early age. And we talked about signing days, right? You talk about putting a construction vest on from an employer. You talk about putting a hard hat on from a trade. You're celebrating signing days in these professions, whether it's advanced manufacturing, culinary, however it may be across the state. And so, we look at that, like Russ always says, the rigor with that OJT, when you start day one as a registered apprentice, right, earning and learning, that whole concept of going to school for 3 years, 4 years, however, and then trying to find that employer, that model just keeps growing, when it comes to registered apprenticeship. So I just wanted to just touch on that note, but when our employers are together with our joint apprenticeship training committees, like each of the owners that sit on those committees, they're seeing that cutting edge of technology. And so we're able to embed that in our graduation requirements, with the DOL registered apprenticeships and stay current, and that's what's important. So it's got to be, you continue to make it exciting, right? Because, every industry is vying for that most special person, and hats off to them because the strongest will win.
I guess I would just second the ideas that have been shared. And when it comes to breaking down what might be the biggest myth, for sure, I think it's that whole, I think Doug, you kind of said it's like the career that can be had versus the traditional go to college and then find one, right? The career that can be had out of the gate is kind of incredible. So I do think that's a myth. I'll tell you one more, we have an opportunity to grow the number of employers in Michigan that offer registered programs. And we still continue to hear both Lee and Russ serve on Michigan's, and Ryan actually serve on Michigan's Registered Apprenticeship Advisory Board, if you will, and kind of set the tone. One of the first items that was brought to our attention in that from the board is that awareness and marketing is still a critical success factor. We still have a lot of employers along with our residents that don't realize the benefits from a registered apprenticeship program, from sponsoring a program. And along with that, we still continue to hear that if we train them, they'll move to a competitor. But in reality, over 90% of the apprentices that graduate stay with the sponsors and employers that they've now become kind of part of the family with. When Doug and Lee were talking about that brotherhood and the support, and it can be a sisterhood as well, right? That just support each other. It's exactly the opposite, Ryan, of what people think. It actually grows that relationship that keeps a person with the company that's investing in them. So.
Very well said. Thanks to all the panelists for those comments. We are running up on the 11 o'clock time frame. Before we close out today, though, are there any other thoughts or final comments that the panelists would like to share?
I would just like to thank Ryan. I'd like to thank you for hosting this, and thank the A team I was on with Lee and Scott. And for all those that have joined us, to remember that Registered Apprenticeship is a flexible training system. And I kind of go back to my GM days when I talk about continuous improvement. And that's what we do when we work with all the employers and the apprenticeships as we change with the times. And you heard Lee talk about the high tech, and we do continuous improvement as far as changing our standards to meet the needs of our sponsors and adding the classroom instruction and the relevance to what the rigor is out in the field. And so we could go on, but I think this was great that we had National Apprenticeship Week. We had an opportunity to do this, and thanks for allowing OA to be part of it. Thanks, Ryan.
Yeah, and I'll just say thank you as well for this opportunity today, just to keep sharing the good work that's being done. We said earlier, it's partnering, right? It's collectively doing it together, showcasing the models, the marketing, all of that. And you know, mostly the employers, those individuals that are working for the employers, you know, they want to be happy, right? They want to feel like you talked, Ryan, earlier, just about the professional development. That's always going to be coming in our direction. And so just to know that that's available through an employer, right, through a registered apprenticeship structure, you get to see these certifications and these continued opportunities to gain, you know, your own portfolio, if you will, and be happy, right, every single day. That's what they say. You want to go into work loving what you do, and it isn't work, right? It's your career. So, but thank you. We're in exciting times. There is no doubt.
Great. Well, thank you again to our panelists, Doug, Scott, Lee, Russ. We really appreciate your time today and for sharing your thoughts with us as well. Michigan Works is proud to work with all of you, whether you're a panelist or an attendee or anybody viewing the recording after it goes up on our YouTube channel later today. Wanted to thank all of you and again remind you that we are proud to work together to help Michigan residents become reemployed and helping employers find their talent they need to reengage as the economy continues the post-pandemic recovery. Thank you again, everyone, for joining us today for this informative discussion. Happy Friday. Have a wonderful Thanksgiving. Take care.
Thanks, Ryan. You as
Take
well.
care.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Yes. Take care, everyone.
Thank you. Happy Thanksgiving.